this movie, why is it suited to be to have a legacy sequel? Why did Lee Isaac Chung say, "I want to make director of Minari. I want to make a sequel to this 1996 film"? What's the draw here?
I think first things first, it's a disaster movie, big budget, huge box office smash in 1996. One of the biggest box office hits in the 90s in general. So that's obviously the first thing. But two, it's like it's a cult classic by now. You know, 30 years later, uh, it's definitely something that people hung on to, and definitely not just the audience members, but also filmmakers had an appreciation for. Steven Spielberg was a producer on that project. He also was a producer here. So something that people appreciate, not just the audience, but filmmakers. So that's where like those two things, big box office budget, and a disaster movie, and the appreciation where again, there's a lot of different avenues you could take. And I did like some of the cleverness and spins that Lee Isaac Chung took here in this movie. Did it follow the same template? Yes, it did. But he took enough differences and made it intriguing enough and compelling enough where I enjoyed the movie thoroughly.
Yeah, I feel like this was a legacy sequel that wasn't over lenient on the original. And I think that's part of what made it so good. A Twister, it's not like Top Gun Maverick does lean on Top Gun a lot and Iceman and some of the tropes of the original. And that's because that movie is beloved and it's Tom Cruise starring in it. Like Twisters, I agree with you. It was like Twister, it's a disaster movie, and Lee Isaac Chung may be saying, okay, like we need good disaster movies, but we need other type of action movies that aren't superhero related that are going to draw people to the theaters during the summer. It just seems like it's something that hasn't worked. Like Roland Emmerich has been trying to make disaster movies and they flop so hard every time. This is an opportunity, I think, to bring back the disaster movie and to have Glen Powell attached to it. But I also think the original Twister, I mean, the practicality of the effects when the tornado is hitting and things are being flown around, right? I think that's actually a very good part of the movie. I think it's done well. It's thrilling. But when it comes to the actual twister, the actual tornado, I feel like there was an opportunity to show something way more improved upon with a legacy sequel, right? We have better technology now. It doesn't look as corny. It can look electric. And you can not, and I think both movies, Twister and Twisters, they nail like the human element of of a tornado, how it's going to impact somebody. But I think what Twisters did so well, it separated itself, is that wow, like we are inside the tornado. We got Tyler Owens' truck bolting down and shooting fireworks up inside of it, right? You still had the thrill factor, but also you had the oh shit, this is actually awesome what I'm looking at, you know? I just felt like that was another thing where, hey, we have an opportunity here.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And again, it was a big cast. You know, you could attract a big cast with that budget and the cult classic feel, that legacy sequel. You could attract that as well for this legacy sequel. I think that's just another big draw. And again, when you can get a guy like Glen Powell, like, and then obviously Sasha Lane, Daisy Edgar Jones, up and coming Brendan Pereira was just in a Jordan Peele movie. I think there's a lot, or David Cordsweat, the next Superman, which he didn't find out until this on set of this movie, but still, like
Cool.
up and coming actors you could attract to this project, which I think was another enticing thing.
I love stories like that where like David Cornsweet finds out he's Superman on the set of another movie. It's like Robert Pattinson when he found out he was Batman when he was shooting Tenet with Christopher Nolan, who directed obviously the Dark Knight trilogy. Those are some of my favorite stories, like behind the scenes in Hollywood. And there's video of it according to Glen Powell. I would love to see that. David Cornsweet, I forgot was even in this goddamn movie. And after I saw him, I'm like, that's our Superman. I just got a little more jacked up. That adds an extra element to the movie. And he looks like Superman in this movie. And I kept staring at him like I just imagined him like flying around that tornado as if he's Superman. I'm like, I just that just added something like I want to see this now. You know, this guy his stock is rising. You know, even if it's
I,
the smallest role here.
when I rewatched Pearl this past week, I was like, damn, that is Clark Kent. Like he looks absolutely huge in his like dress shirt and tie. I'm like, yeah, that's Clark Kent, Superman in disguise. You know, I totally saw that.
Okay, let's hop into Twisters now. We'll hit the Rotten Tomatoes, we'll hit the IMDb, and then we'll go synopsis before our initial reaction. So Rotten Tomatoes, Twisters is clocking in at 77% critic score, 93% audience score, IMDb 7.1 out of 10. And the synopsis reads, haunted by a devastating encounter with a tornado, Kate Cooper gets lured back to the open plains by her friend Javi to test a groundbreaking new tracking system. She soon crosses paths with Tyler Owens, a charming but reckless social media superstar who thrives on posting his storm-chasing adventures. As storm season intensifies, Kate, Tyler, and their competing teams find themselves in a fight for their lives as multiple systems converge over central Oklahoma. Ricky Flex, initial reactions to Twisters. Straight up, did you like the film?
Straight up, yeah. Yeah, I did. I really liked it. Like, it's nothing like when you leave the movie theater and then you're like with that type of buzz, and then you throw on the soundtrack afterwards. Great soundtrack. Really jives with the movie. Like the country songs in this throughout, and the aura of the Midwest that Lee Isaac Chung presents here really jive together. And in a disaster movie, you on the face of it's like, what, country music, big blockbuster? How's that gonna work? It worked incredibly well here. And again, same template as the 96, a couple, one or two extra disasters or tornadoes that they showed here. But again, they put their own spin on it that I really liked. There were some things that I was like, I don't know about that. But overall, really liked the movie, liked the switch that they did. And Lee Isaac Chung, like Minari director, he could do a big budget movie, a blockbuster, and he could have a little bit of soul, add a little soul to it, which I appreciated. But overall, yes, straight up liked it.
Straight up, I thought it was very, very good. All right. I'm nearly on the verge of saying it was great, but I'll just start with saying it's very, very good. This was the summer blockbuster I think that we needed in the heat in the dog days of summer before we have the superhero takeover with Deadpool and Wolverine. Glen Powell was absolutely electric in this movie. This was the movie star that looks like a movie star, that wears the cowboy hat, and it feels natural. Felt like the energy picked up tenfold when he stepped on the screen. The action sequences, I thought, were much improved from the original film. Obviously, I think anyone with a pair of eyes can witness that and see that and observe that. I think the soundtrack was great, and it's kind of hard to have a country themed soundtrack in a 2024 movie, but I think there has been an explosion in country music that, especially with like Morgan Wallen and Zach Bryan, I think there is a more mainstream type of appreciation for country music. I think the soundtrack actually came at an opportune time, and they noticed like, hey, this might be our chance here with an Oklahoma setting. Thought it was super effective. Like along with the tornado sequences, I thought there was some nice twists here. The no pun intended, but to have to go inside of the tornado and feel like you're inside the tornado, to have the YouTube big come up for YouTube, big movie for YouTube.
They did that well.
And I like, there's times where people are podcasters and there's a podcast subplot, YouTube subplot. I thought it was effective here because it kind of provided some misdirection on the Tyler Owens character and what his YouTube channel and squad were all about. Overall, great. Daisy Edgar Jones, formidable. I still am not sold she is the best thing since sliced bread. I still thought that she is not at the level of movie stardom as Glen Powell is. And I think anyone that has been paying attention to movies can say that. There's a line in this movie where, so there's a reporter that's following Tyler Owens' character in the truck. And there's towards the middle of the movie, Tyler Owens is staring out to Daisy Edgar Jones's character in the distance. And he says to the reporter, "That's your story right there." And I was just thinking to myself, is it? Is she the story? Because I think Tyler Owens is the electric character here. Overall, I loved it, Ricky Flex. Thoughts on the action sequences here, Ricky Flex, at least compared to the original?
You're right. Like definitely better and a huge upgrade. Again, technology, digital effects, special effects, VFX, all have improved over the past 30 years.
Yeah.
Anyone, like you said, anyone with a pair of eyes could see the upgrade.
We've seen CGI go wrong, though. We've seen it. It seemed like there was a lot of practicality going on.
Yeah, and like with a Lee Isaac Chung, where he hasn't worked with that before, like you could definitely see, like, oh, we could see a path of destruction. You know, we could see a path of, this could not have gone well, but it did. It went well. It went great. I would say, again, with a template from Twister, it helps where like you have the opening disaster. It's like kind of like starts the movie and it puts you in the back of your mind saying, oh yeah, these are bad. Like this isn't just about the chase or the thrill. It's like, oh, death happens, right? They have that opening sequence. They have that one sequence when they're not chasing it, but the tornado hits you, and it's like, oh, we got to take cover. They have that in this movie. They have the one where Dorothy or whatever, and from Twister, and that versus this one, the technology that's gonna help mitigate disasters or the tornado. They have that sequence. They have one where it fails. They follow the same template, and it's just upgraded, in my opinion. It's just everything's upgraded, and not only that, I think some of the things that they did in this movie, not only in special effects, but they used like 2024 to a great extent. So one example is with the drone, like that little what's it
That was
called? A
cool.
model airplane.
Him throwing you up in the air.
Yeah, very cool effect. Switching camera shots to the drone inside the tornado. That was very smart. Also, another thing that's not really 2024, but a great addition is when they go inside the tornado, like the Glen Powell character or the truck, they could drill it into the ground.
So cool.
Very cool, very smart. So it's like those little things that they add here, I thought really helped with those scenes. And again, the special effects, obvious, but it's also those little things. Even like with the YouTube, and like you have the YouTube, like if you're watching the YouTube, they switch to that camera shot. It's like, oh, you're watching the tornado from the camera's point of view,
Live
or
cam.
like if you're watching the YouTube, the live cam, yeah. Or they see like the people that actually are like fans of Glen Powell or just tornado watching. You have that crew, So the different elements that Lee Isaac Chung added here, I thought really helped enhance the experience of the actual tornado disaster that we're watching from our view, the audience.
Yeah, and even why I think the YouTube part like also worked is that like there is some like self-awareness that like, hey, this is like actually like really corny and like you're kind of fake famous, but you're not really famous. Like your name's on a t-shirt, right? People are following you, but like they have I think there was a deeper character inside Tyler Owens and his crew, right? And there was for everyone in that squad. And I think it just added another layer, right, to the script here. It was something that I don't know, it was very simple to follow, but like you cared more about the characters as the movie went along. Thought it was excellent. Speaking of this as a legacy sequel, what I liked about it is that you're not really looking for an Easter egg every 5 seconds, right? So you have in the first scene the Dorothy 4 from Twister, and you're like pointing out like Leo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You're snapping a couple times saying, "Oh, Dorothy, Dorothy, Dorothy!" Those things flying in the air. But what it did to pay homage is to follow similar beats to the original film, like you're talking about. It's the two rival groups that are competing with one another. It's the motivation of it's the plot of one character losing a family member or losing someone that they love or someone close to them, right? And them trying to move on from that, right? Same type of beat here. And then I also thought like a similar beat. I was listening to a podcast and they were reviewing the original Twister. They were talking about, I don't know if this is a thing that's widely known, where the Twister is kind of a metaphor for sex with Helen Hunt's character and Bill Paxton. And it kind of was the same thing here with Daisy Edgar Jones and Glen Powell. And this is a minor spoiler, but like they have a romantic thing going on, but they never kiss, right? And they don't have sex, but they go off into a storm together, right? And I just felt like there was electricity. There is a passion that was in those characters for storm chasing, like there was for Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt. And it's like that type of energy I appreciated in a legacy sequel. That's where you're honoring the movie that came before it. I just thought it followed those beats very well. The ancillary characters, the common men folk between, well, basically just for the YouTube channels group. Thought it was done very well. And then you also talked about them with the new technology, not having the Dorothy this time, but also we're trying to evaporate liquid from a tornado. It's like, oh, we're doing something else. We're doing something different, but it's something the audience is familiar with. I just thought that was excellently done. And you were looking for, hey, when is, obviously you can't say Bill Paxton's going to show up, but are they going to pay homage to Bill Paxton? Are you going to have Helen Hunt in the movie? Are they going to have some type of name drop here? And the movie doesn't do it. The movie doesn't do it, Ricky Flex, and I kind of love that about it.
Yes, but I was thinking like, oh, when I saw Dorothy, um, in the beginning, I was like, oh, so her mom's gonna be Helen Hunt because how else does she have that,
So,
right? And
yeah,
I think you should have had Helen Hunt here. She's 61. That's like a perfect age to kind of. She's not old enough. Sorry, she's like she's not too old. She still looks good. Like you could have easily slid her in here as her mom. And if we're being honest, I agree with you off the top. I think I'm gonna go a little harsher though. Daisy Edgar Jones was fine, and I understand her casting. Like this role is filled with guilt. Like she's an introvert. She's quiet. She's not like the go-getter like Helen Hunt was. But my God, I think Helen Hunt did laps around her if we're comparing the two leads.
Helen Hunt was a badass in that first movie.
Yes, dude.
I thought she was
Complete
better than Bill
badass.
Paxton in that movie. Bill Paxton, great common man, great for that movie. But Helen Hunt, I thought she was great. She was great.
Yeah, like Helen Hunt was Glen Powell in this, and Bill Paxton was Daisy Edgar Jones in this. Like that's kind of like the twist that they did here. But I don't know. I think we could have seen a lot more from Daisy Edgar Jones. And the one time she got really emotional in the barn, I was like, you're not selling me on this. I thought it was way overacted. She tried way too hard versus like Glen Powell's just like naturally like charisma. Like he's naturally like his presence is just there, you know? So for me, like I'm not saying she was bad. I'm just saying she was fine. But if I'm comparing to the original, Helen Hunt was awesome. And I think you have to, if she's around, like obviously Bill Paxton not around, but rest in peace. But like Helen Hunt, like yeah, that was a clear indication to bring her back.
I thought Lee Isaac Chung was doing something there. When he had Maura Tierney show up, he probably knew in the back of his mind everyone is expecting to see Helen Hunt, and he decided not to do it. I feel like yes, you probably should have had her there, at least for that scene. That would have been something nice for people that are loyal to the Twister movie. I love Maura Tierney though. I think she's actually really good in this, and I
Yeah.
love her in the Iron Claw, and I thought she was the female touch in the Iron Claw that was very much necessary. We've talked about that. Listen to our Iron Claw review, but Maura Tierney, I was excited that she's doing more stuff, something that's on a wider scale, and I think she's finally getting appreciated. But I was thinking Helen Hunt probably that like it felt like Lee Isaac Chung was kind of pulling a rug underneath us, and they were saying, "Oh, you think you're gonna get her? You're not gonna get Helen Hunt." And I was waiting for the entire time. Oh, like Tyler Owens is very suspicious of the Daisy Edgar Jones character and saying, where does she come from? And I'm thinking, does Tyler Owens know about Dorothy and its origins? Does he know about Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt's characters? Does he know that this person might be the daughter of one of those two? But it turns out he just heard from a newspaper article that she was a part of that major disaster, that major tornado that happened way back when, 5 years previous to the events that transpire in present day for this movie. Daisy Edgar Jones and Glen Powell. I thought she can't match Glen Powell. Like Glen Powell it's just an over electricity. It's what is that called? He's a spark plug. It's like it's a
He's a tour de force.
It's just something where he has such electricity on here. Daisy Edgar Jones can't really match it. I thought this movie excellent with the action. Then Glen Powell was excellent, but I thought one of the flaws, the subplot with the romantic subplot going to the third act, I think kind of stalled the movie a little bit. And we just wanted to get back to that nonstop action that we kind of were getting from the very first scene of this movie. You know, I like the concept of it. I just didn't think it was executed that well. I think that was what slowed it down. What do you think?
Slowed it down, stalled it. Great words. Rom-com type of ending that wasn't true. Like it definitely was leaning that way, and then they didn't fully commit to it. Felt odd, felt off. What also felt off was the Anthony Ramos character just third wheel in the entire movie. Felt weird. It felt awkward. It was not his fault. It was the writing. The way they wrote that character in to butt in every freaking 5 minutes into this rom-com feel, it felt off. It just did. It felt awkward. I don't know. I think that was a big flaw of the movie.
I think it was a big mistake to kind of tell the audience that Anthony Ramos loved Daisy Edgar Jones's character. Like if they were just great friends, it would work so much better. And you believe Anthony Ramos at the end where he's telling Glen Powell, go get the girl, you know? But like, come on, like just don't have him in love with her because you're kind of thinking like it's just like a Ducky Pretty in Pink situation. Like let Glen Powell get the hot girl, dude. We know that's going to happen, right? This guy's the heir apparent to Tom Cruise. He's going to get what he wants by the end of this movie. But I thought that was a little bit weird as well, Ricky Flex. I wasn't a huge fan of it. What else do we want to talk about? We hit the soundtrack. Do you think the story was compelling enough?
I think it's compelling enough. What was my problem is this solution that she has. They kept trying to explain this thing. I think they did a poor job trying to explain it, especially for like I think Glen Powell tried multiple times. It was just hard to freaking understand. They said it so many different ways. They said it in the barn multiple times. They said it while setting up with the reporter, because the reporter, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the movie, there's a reporter following them, trying to document this story, and he's asking questions about it, basically as a mode for us, the audience, saying, what the hell is this? Can you explain this to me like I'm 5? And they couldn't. They absolutely couldn't do it. I think that's another big flaw of the movie.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you're trying a little bit too hard here. Just like let it go. Like we get what it's trying to do.
It's gonna cure tornadoes. Fine.
Just go out there and do it.
We accept it.
Evaporate that water. You know,
just show us the tornado for God's sakes, Lee Isaac.
Can we just save the day already? One flaw. I don't think we had enough backstory on Tyler Owens' character.
Yes, agreed.
I think we were so obsessed, or the writers are so obsessed with Daisy Edgar Jones and her arc, that all we really get about Tyler Owens is that it was one day he was with his grandmother and a tornado showed up like in the middle of the road and he was like transfixed on it, and that's it. And I'm like, there's got to be more to this. You know, like this guy is going and using his resources to like help out people that are tragically, right, having their homes taken away, losing loved ones. You know, we find out that the t-shirts he's selling is going to help and pay for the food, like to help people after these disastrous events. We need more of like why he is this way. I just thought that was a missing piece in the movie.
Yeah, and like they gave you more backstory, which doesn't connect as well to the tornado, where he was like, I used to be in rodeos. I used to ride bulls. And it's like, oh, you get the thrill aspect. But then it's like, well, you don't have a connection to tornadoes still. Like, just because you saw one when you were 8 and you loved it, that's why you're saving people. Like, you don't have anything, a motivating factor aspect to your backstory, which I thought was and they gave him multiple chances to tell us one. And that's just, again, the writing of it. They had multiple chances to do it. They literally gave us it, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't nearly enough. I think that was a significant, like, even though I did love the character and the YouTube element of it, and also the relationship come up with Daisy Edgar Jones's character, it's just like you still in the back of your mind are driven by, why is this guy here in the first place?
Okay. Overall, though, I thought my favorite scene, action-wise, before we get to scores, I love the pool scene and the rodeo into the pool, and like what Twister did so well, the things that are flying around, the avoiding of like hurling houses and cars. I was hoping that and they kind of had an homage with like the flying cow. You have the bulls here, you know, but that whole sequence of them going into the motel, the people skeptical of the tornado, them grabbing, right, those people from the motel, going into that pool area, and then holding on for dear life. I thought, aside from maybe the first tornado scene where the rockets go shooting into the sky with Tyler Owens' character, that was up there with one of my favorite sequences. Anything you got?
I think sequence we haven't talked about, what we kind of have to, was the meta movie theater sequence.
Oh yeah, what was on? And they decided not to be outside, right? And like the Shining was in the original Twister. What were they showing? Frankenstein or something?
Frankenstein, and then the screen goes away, and then it's the tornado on the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it was good, but like it's like you're kind of rolling your eyes at the same time. So I don't know. It was good, but like very meta. And I was like, well, did we really have to do that? I don't know. But again, that's kind of like an ode to the first one, where it's a drive-in movie theater. This one's like an old school movie theater. And then the screen flies off, and then you're watching the tornado. So I get it. It's fine.
Okay, let's hit scores. What do you give Twisters?
75, 6.
Yeah, I'm a 79 on this one. I was at an 81, but after discussing some of these things, right, I definitely want to knock it down 2 pegs. But overall, great summer blockbuster, dog days of summer. Seems like we're on a nice stretch right now. Last week we did Long Legs. We got Twisters this week. We got Deadpool and Wolverine the following week. Then we have Trap. The movies are rolling right now. The movies are rolling.